Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm the creator of this channel, Yuna. I'm an artist, but I also want to make an essay on the analysis of Miraculous Ladybug's representation in Asian culture, because I like to analyze shit. Also because I'm an American of Asian descent, I think I have a right to criticize Asian culture being depicted in Western media. This video was inspired by Haryana Hook and Anime Post, two YouTubers who discuss the misogyny and racism within Miraculous Ladybug's running. Here are the disclaimers. The things I say is simply an analysis of what I've seen. What I speculate is not a definitive opinion. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong for speculating it. And my personal opinions are only from my own experiences only. Chapter 1. Marinette's appearance. During the first draft of Miraculous, Marinette appeared more Asian than her current 3D model. She had darker eyes, her eyelids were epicanthic folds, etc. I see some people saying that a biracial person like Marinette doesn't have to look like her mom. But the thing is, it isn't because she doesn't look Asian enough. It's the previous that she looked more Asian is the problem. It seems very whitewashing to me because she looked, more Asian. And even if she's biracial, it would have been nicer for Asian people to see a more Asian-adjacent look than her whiter features. Eurocentric features over Asian features seem like another reason why I personally think Marinette was Asian for brownie points, because they clearly don't care about making her more Asian, but shoving the fact that Marinette's mom is Chinese with her design. They just want to show off how much of a French city girl she is with additional culture, so they get points for diversity. I still can't believe how assimilated Sabine is at times, yet they expect us to count her Chinese heritage as diversity when they don't bother showing us correctly. I also want to point out this very creepy fact that Marinette's parents were based on Estruck, the creator of the show, and his previous Chinese-French girlfriend, and Marinette was their virtual child. That's creepy as hell. He's not even married to her. He has a kid with another woman. That's why I feel like being Asian is somewhat fetish struck. Chapter 2. Marinette and identifying with her culture. The biggest problem for me throughout the show is that Marinette has to be taught by some white guy who only speaks Mandarin, instead of the clearly half Chinese girl with a Chinese mother to teach her about her culture. This is the part that frankly pisses me off the most. There's so many things they could explore about Marinette as her identity as a biracial person, but no, they must whitewash her as well. So again, that white privilege, that obvious because the white writers overlooked. I can't believe that her being Chinese is important to the plot at this point, because generally it's not. Not feeling Asian or French enough for the society she lives in, she's only a laughingstock because her mom practically submitted herself to French culture and quote-unquote added rice to the dough. Also, the fact that Marinette was heavily based on anime caricatures just emphasizes there's probably some white guy's wet dream, because who wouldn't want some fucking Asian women to sniff their pillow and act like a yandere? Chapter 3. Stereotypes. Kagami is Japanese, and she is the biggest punching bag in the entire show. Not only is she portrayed in a negative light as a love interest, she's a definition of a dragon lady or a badass Asian stereotype, completely reducing her to the Asian girl who will sweep Adrian off his feet to eat sushi for the rest of his life. Japanese people may eat sushi, but that stuff is usually a light delicacy, not an everyday meal. To be honest, I think the joke would have been better if she said rice, because most Asian people eat rice, but hey, let's not increase racism. And our second character, Kim. Kim is Vietnamese. Shocking to the average audience of the show, they never once mention it. Anyways, let's get to the fact that before he was King Monkey, he was a bully who was in love with Chloe. I mean, I could be wrong, but when Chloe rejected him in Dark Cupid, I mostly got the whole Asian men aren't desirable attitude from Chloe. She literally said, Asian is so perfect. And I'm glad that Undine saw how he's a decent person Kim could be. Well, that's what I noticed, because apparently Adrian's the most desirable white guy in the class. Poor Max and Kim. Well, I think Kim kind of got a redemption arc, but behind the scenes, who knows? We don't know why he got a redemption arc. But much appreciated, I guess. And here's Chapter 4, Sabine and the Argument of Not Needing to Teach Marinette. Sabine is more of a nut to crack than I initially thought. Sabine is Chinese, and some people don't know that, even though there are times that Chloe says, Marinette, do Ping Chang, but somehow they completely miss the Chang part. And she wears a chihuahua, or a tiara, November 12, 2019. Mom is showing me her favorite TV show from when she was growing up. I need the subtitles, but it's nice practice for my Mandarin. So this practically debunks the fact that she's indeed learning about her culture. There are people who are saying that Sabine doesn't need to teach Marinette her culture, yet we have a beautiful, clear-cut example of Marinette learning it. I just like this argument that Marinette is not required to know about her culture because for many Asian immigrant kids, our immigrant parents are the only link to our culture we'll never be able to experience first-handedly. I can tell as a kid from Asian immigrants that didn't do their research on the immigrant experience, because a Thai person is not going to make hamburgers and hot dogs for dinner. Or bread. Another thing, Sabine is dually two different tropes. The lotus flower trope and the dragon lady trope. She just brought out the Jackie Chan out of nowhere.
Oh, how dare you! Yeah! Whoa, whoa, whoa! I demand an apology!
Very confused. She's also a lotus blossom because she's soft-spoken and, well, I don't know. She's just very soft, like a porcelain doll. Eleanor Park. And then here are the other Asian characters. Suhan, he's an antagonist for wanting better from Ladybug, and apparently he's morally wrong to them. Great. And then there's that one dude in the Shanghai special, for example. He's greedy as hell. There's a stereotype that Asian people are greedy and gold diggers. His name is Cash, like money cash. The fuck? And there's Faye. Yeah, we know she's an ally to Marinette later down the movie, but she was like a pickpocket originally. And she has to be a badass Asian girl trope because she has a color streak in her hair. And she knows martial arts too. Great going. And there's Master Food. He was a wise Asian man trope. No comment, no point, no need to make any other points. We all know. And Asian people are clearly the villains of this franchise at this point. This is only more hurtful because there's been poor representation of Asian people in general. They somehow twist the strict Asian to morally wrong people, but Asian elders only want the best for youngsters. Chapter 5. Asian representation in the franchise's history. I'm not a total expert in East Asian culture, but I'm going to jokingly insert that I'm way more qualified to properly add the bare minimum of Asian culture properly in the show than writers have. I mean, they can't even see from wrong or right until they completely botch the product. The show has poorly represented Asian culture in general. I'm going to go as chronological as possible if I remember. Please excuse me if I don't have many examples or I missed one because this is from the top of my head. In Kung Fu in Season 1, Marinette's grand uncle Wang is named Kung Fu. Like, why? You serious? He's not a martial artist. What's the point of naming that? Of course, we have the infamous part of Chloe being racist to her Wang about making sushi and not soup. And then we have Adrian explaining Marinette's own culture, though he has never lived in China. I can't with this show. In anime show, Kagami wears a kimono. If you look at it, it's not even a kimono. It's just a pantsuit of sort with a kimono top. That's not what a kimono is supposed to look like. East Asian culture is heavily derived from their Sino/Chinese roots. There are major similarities and major differences. If you can get Sabine's cheap house somewhat right, then what's the problem with Kagami? Even though a light weeb would know that's not a kimono, it looks like a bathrobe. In my original video, I described how they managed to fuck up the design of sacred traditional wear, but they managed to make a cute princess dress for Marinette. I keep emphasizing how pissed I am with white people running shows misrepresenting Asian people. Why is it so hard to make Kagami a good character who happens to be Japanese, not a Japanese character? Man, the kimono would have been a great way for Kagami to show off her feminine side. Marinette's grandpa is mad about Sabine adding rice to the bread dough. Yeah, that's not racist. I don't know what is. Funny how we met her paternal side, but not her maternal side. If they were trying to have a traditional versus modern lesson, but it just comes off racist in general. Asian people are just a punching bag. I swear to God. This movie takes place in Shanghai, but they keep switching the scripts in traditional and simplified. In Shanghai, they only use simplified script. And speaking of Shanghai, instead of exploring the culture, it's mainly used as a plot device. And also, why did Marinette go away half the world just to see Adrian in another country? He'll still be there when she gets home. Unless. But still, like, how do you mess that up? My God. Her parents are so happy she's going to go to Shanghai to explore culture. And look what they did. And then someone said that Sabine's sheep house on correctly. That's sad because Asian culture, Asian clothing is so beautiful. I don't know how do you manage to fuck that up. My dad is Laos and Thai, and during their New Year's, we have this traditional clothes called a sin. The last video, I didn't know what they were called, but now I do, and I have a purple one. Furious Fu. Su Han is trained in Miraculous Kung Fu. I'm not going to question what that is. Spoilers for season 4. They're releasing an episode called Children, and I have a bad feeling about this because I have high expectations of how they're going to portray Chinese mythology. I mean, as a Genshin Impact player, the Chinese obviously know how to portray their mythology in Liyue lore, but for a TV show, I am scared. They're also releasing an episode called Kuro Neko, which means black cat in Japanese. Does anyone who speaks Japanese think Astrok is appropriating Japanese culture names in any way, shape, or form? Because he has an episode called Oni-chan already, which is a combo of Oni and Oni-chan, which is demon and older brother respectively. Kagami as the Oni doesn't match up with anything in Japanese mythology, according to this one bit research by the Tumblr account, The Immaturity of Thomas Astrok. The powers are even somewhat similar to something called Namahage, where adults dress up in Oni costumes to learn to kidnap misbehaving children. In Genshin Impact, they released a character called Arataki Ito, who was an Oni. In part of the quest, we had to throw a bunch of beans at him, and Onis are very allergic to beans. Now, that's a good idea for a lucky charm. Also, another thing, they never added a South Asian character. They only seem to have lighter skinned Asians. South feels in the area where generally Southeast Asians are tanner than East Asians, but he ends up being lighter. Not that Vietnamese people aren't fair skinned generally, I mean, I don't know how to explain, but they had ample opportunity to portray a tan Southeast Asian character, but they didn't. Oh no. I had this mentality the show was going to end at season 5 because they said it was, but they're still adding more seasons apparently. But if I'm going to say from my end of season 5 mentality, they're doomed at fixing their characters. That's all I gotta say. We're gonna comment. Please be respectful to the other comments and don't make it a war zone. Bye.